Have you ever wondered why some people command attention the moment they walk into a room, while others remain invisible no matter how hard they try? What separates those who are constantly pursued from those who are perpetually pursuing? The answer lies deeper than charisma or physical appearance. It's rooted in ancient wisdom that the most influential figures throughout history have quietly mastered: the psychology of becoming irreplaceable in others' minds. But before we begin, please hit the like button and let me know where in the world you're watching from today. It's always fascinating seeing who's joining us from around the world, and if you haven't already, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any of our future videos. Power in this world is never handed over freely. Those who wait patiently for recognition, for approval, for their turn, are teaching the world to step over them like doormats. Has this ever happened to you? You give your all, demonstrate your worth, yet watch as others with half your talent receive double the recognition. The truth might make you uncomfortable. Becoming valued isn't about being nice or working harder. It's about positioning yourself as essential, as irreplaceable. It's about transforming into a force of nature that creates an unmistakable void when absent. What you're about to discover might surprise you. The most magnetic individuals don't chase attention. They command it by controlling the frame of reality itself. They understand that perception is malleable, that whoever defines what matters in an interaction ultimately dictates the terms of engagement. These masters of influence don't accept the default reality presented to them. Instead, they bend perception until others believe what they want them to believe. This isn't manipulation in the crude sense. It's the sophisticated art of narrative control that political leaders, business titans, and social icons have employed throughout history. Stay with me until the end, because these principles work whether you're navigating corporate politics, building personal relationships, or establishing yourself in any competitive environment. The strategies I'm about to reveal aren't taught in traditional education. They're the unspoken rules that govern human dynamics at the highest levels. Imagine walking into any situation with the quiet confidence of someone who knows they cannot be ignored, cannot be replaced, cannot be forgotten. Picture the freedom of never again feeling dispensable or overlooked. This isn't about becoming someone new. It's about awakening the latent power that already exists within you. The journey begins with a fundamental shift in how you view influence. Most spend their lives begging for approval, unaware that true power isn't requested. It's claimed with unwavering conviction. The moment you grasp this distinction, everything changes. Your presence becomes a gravitational force that others can't help but orbit around. As we explore the first key principle of irreplaceability, ask yourself, what would change if people started seeing you as the exception, the standard bearer, the one person they couldn't afford to lose? If you're ready to master the psychology of influence, hit subscribe. I share these advanced strategies that most people will never discover. The true transformation begins when you stop seeking validation and start defining reality itself. Think about it. The weak spend their days scanning faces for approval, constantly adjusting themselves to fit external expectations. But those who command genuine respect, they operate from an entirely different mindset. They don't ask for the world's permission to exist. They define what matters in every interaction. Your presence should carry such weight that it's not merely noticed, but believed in without question. This isn't about domination through force, but rather through the subtle art of perception. When you speak with unshakable conviction, others naturally align their reality with yours. The hidden truth here is that most people are desperately seeking someone to follow, someone whose perspective feels like solid ground in a world of shifting sands. Now, I want to go even deeper into this topic by revealing one of the most counterintuitive principles of becoming irreplaceable. Strategic absence. Have you noticed how the things we can easily access tend to lose their value? This is no accident. It's a fundamental law of human psychology. Scarcity creates value. When you're everywhere, constantly available, constantly visible, you become common. And common things, no matter how initially impressive, eventually become invisible. The masters of influence understand this paradox intimately. They create magnetic scarcity by deliberately limiting their availability. This isn't about playing childish games or being unreliable. It's about recognizing that your presence is a premium experience that should be valued accordingly. Consider the impact when you step back at precisely the moment you're at your peak in someone's mind. You leave them with an impression of strength and control that lingers, an echo of your presence that grows stronger in your absence. This creates a powerful psychological current. They begin orbiting around thoughts of you, wondering where you are, what you're doing, who else might be experiencing what they now miss. The journey toward irreplaceability requires understanding these deeper mechanisms of human connection. When you withdraw strategically, you're not running away. You're pulling the emotional rug from under others, creating a void that only you can fill. This void becomes a canvas on which others project their ideal version of you, often making you more formidable in their imagination than you could ever be in constant presence. This is where most people make a critical error in their approach to relationships, whether personal or professional. They believe that constant availability demonstrates commitment and value. In reality, it often signals the opposite, that your time has no premium, that your attention can be claimed without effort, that your presence requires no special consideration. The revelation here isn't that you should become cold or distant, but rather that you should become deliberate. Every appearance, every message, every moment of connection should feel purposeful and significant. By doing so, you transform ordinary interactions into meaningful exchanges that others come to treasure. Write in the comments, "I control my own scarcity," if you're ready to implement this principle in your own life. Now, there's another dimension to this strategy that few understand, but that amplifies its effect tenfold. That amplifying dimension is the art of making your absence feel like oxygen leaving the room. When you withdraw, it shouldn't be a quiet fading. It should create a noticeable void that's sudden, undeniable, and impossible to ignore. The emotional atmosphere changes when certain people leave. Conversations lose their spark, energy dissipates, and the entire dynamic shifts. This isn't an accident. It's the natural result of a powerful presence temporarily removed. The deeper revelation here is that the longer they go without experiencing you, the more they crave your return. This creates a fascinating psychological transformation where initial curiosity evolves into genuine need, and need eventually crystallizes into influence. This is the natural progression of human connection when managed with intention rather than desperation. Remember, strategic absence isn't about running away or playing childish disappearing acts. It's about creating a contrast that highlights your value. It's about pulling the emotional foundation from beneath others so they can experience the difference between their world with you in it and their world without you. Once they taste that void, a profound mindset shift occurs. They begin to see you not merely as someone to be wanted, but as someone to be feared losing. This journey toward becoming irreplaceable takes another crucial turn when you introduce the element of strategic unpredictability into your interactions. Here's a truth few are willing to confront. Predictability breeds comfort, and comfort eventually kills respect. When people can read you completely, when they know exactly how you'll react, what you'll say, where you'll be, you cease being a player in the game and become merely a piece on their board. The hidden wisdom in controlled mystery is that it forces others to remain alert and engaged. They must consider your potential moves before making their own, because they can never be entirely certain what you might do next. This creates a behind-the-scenes dynamic where you occupy space in their thoughts, even when you're not physically present. Think about the most fascinating people. You know, they likely share this quality, a certain unpredictability that keeps you slightly off balance in the most intriguing way. You find yourself thinking about them, wondering what they're doing, anticipating their next move. This mental real estate is invaluable. It represents attention freely given rather than demanded. The decisions you make about how you show up in the world, when to be present and when to withdraw, when to be predictable and when to surprise, create ripples of impact far beyond the immediate moment. They shape how others perceive you, think about you, and ultimately value you. This isn't about manufacturing a false personality. It's about recognizing that truly magnetic individuals understand the power of contrast. They know that light appears brightest against darkness, that warmth feels most comforting after cold, that presence becomes most precious following absence. Comment below, "I am the unpredictable force," if you're ready to break free from the prison of other people's expectations. Now, there's an even more powerful dimension to strategic unpredictability that most people completely miss. What makes this approach truly powerful is that mystery itself becomes leverage. When your patterns can't be easily predicted, people remain constantly alert to your presence, your words, your actions. They find themselves considering how you might react before they make their own moves. This creates an invisible psychological advantage that plays out in every interaction. While they're analyzing and recalculating, you're already 3 steps ahead. The mindset shift required here is subtle but profound. Most people believe transparency builds trust, and in certain contexts it does. But complete transparency also removes the element of healthy tension that keeps relationships dynamic and engaging. The space between what's known and unknown about you creates a magnetic field that draws others closer, eager to understand more. Now I want to go even deeper into this topic by distinguishing true strategic unpredictability from mere chaos. The untrained eye might confuse the two, but they couldn't be more different. Chaos is random, purposeless, and ultimately self-defeating. Strategic unpredictability, however, is calculated variation designed with clear intent to keep others slightly off balance while you maintain perfect equilibrium. The Machiavellian mind understands that power thrives in this carefully managed uncertainty, when both allies and adversaries can never fully take you for granted. You create a relationship dynamic where you're consistently valued rather than overlooked. This isn't manipulation, it's a recognition of how human attention and respect naturally operate. Think about the most compelling characters in film, literature, or real life. They maintain an element of mystery, a sense that there's always something more beneath the surface. This quality creates an irresistible pull, drawing us into their orbit. As we try to solve the puzzle they present, that's the essence of what you're cultivating, not an artificial persona, but a more strategic revelation of your authentic complexity. The natural world offers perfect examples of this principle in action. Consider the hunting patterns of apex predators. They never telegraph their strikes. They don't announce their presence or reveal their strategy. They appear only at the moment of impact, giving their target no time to prepare or escape. This is the revelation that transforms ordinary influence into extraordinary power. Subscribe now to gain access to the hidden principles of power and influence that separate the extraordinary from the ordinary. When you reveal every move before making it, when you explain your strategy in advance, when you make yourself completely knowable, you effectively hand others the antidote before they've even tasted your poison. Your impact is neutralized before you've had a chance to make it. This journey toward Mastery requires a transformation in how you approach every interaction. It demands patience, observation, and the courage to break familiar patterns. Behind the scenes of every powerful relationship dynamic is this dance of reveal and conceal, of presence and absence, of predictability and surprise, all orchestrated with deliberate precision. Type "I move in shadows" in the comments if you recognize this pattern in the most influential people you've encountered. There's something even more powerful about strategic unpredictability that changes how you're fundamentally perceived by others. That fundamental change in perception begins with a simple but powerful practice, deliberately breaking your own patterns. Most people operate on autopilot, creating predictable routines that make them easy to map out and ultimately easy to take for granted. The transformation begins when you disrupt these patterns with purpose and precision. If you always respond immediately to messages, occasionally delay your response. If you attend every gathering in your social circle, sometimes decline without elaborate explanation. If you typically agree to requests for your time, occasionally say no. These aren't random acts of inconsistency. They're strategic signals that you operate on your own schedule, according to your own priorities, making you impossible to fully predict or manipulate. These small disruptions create powerful ripples in how others perceive you. They begin to recognize, often subconsciously, that your presence isn't guaranteed. It's a privilege that must be valued when it's available. This revelation shifts the entire dynamic of your relationships, both personal and professional. Now, I want to go even deeper into this topic by exploring the art of controlled reveals. In every interaction, there's an exchange of information, of insight, of access to your inner world. Most people make the critical error of showing their full hand, revealing everything they know, think, or feel in a misguided attempt to create connection. True masters of influence understand that mystery is currency. They answer questions with questions, share just enough to keep others leaning in, but never enough to give a complete blueprint of their mind. The space between what's known and unknown becomes fertile ground where others' imaginations take root. And here's the revelation. Imagination nearly always makes you more formidable, more intriguing, more valuable than reality ever could. This isn't about deception. It's about recognizing that human connection thrives on discovery. When everything is immediately accessible, interest quickly wanes. The journey of uncovering layers creates investment, curiosity, and ultimately a deeper form of respect. The third dimension of this mindset shift involves your emotional presentation. The world expects consistency in temperament, the same reactions, the same energy, the same emotional baseline in every situation. Breaking this expectation creates another layer of captivating unpredictability. Vary your emotional tempo. Be warm and engaging in one interaction, more reserved and contemplative in another. Not so drastically that you appear unstable or inauthentic, but enough that no one can ever get completely comfortable thinking they've figured you out. This keeps others perpetually interested, always discovering new facets of who you are. Behind the scenes of every powerful relationship is this dance of reveal and conceal, of warmth and distance, all orchestrated with deliberate intention. The decisions you make about how much to show and when create an ongoing narrative that others find themselves increasingly invested in following. Write, "I control my rhythm" in the comments if you recognize how breaking patterns has created power in your own life. There's another critical element to this approach that explains why some people seem to command respect without ever having to ask for it. That element of unshakable respect comes from a subtle practice most overlook: hiding your thresholds. When others believe they know exactly what you will and will not tolerate, they inevitably push right up to that limit. Human nature compels us to test boundaries once we're certain where they lie. The revelation that transforms this dynamic is concealing those boundaries entirely. Sometimes enforce your standards ruthlessly, drawing hard lines that cannot be crossed. Other times, allow things to slide that might normally provoke a response. This isn't inconsistency born from weakness, it's strategic variability designed to build unpredictability into others' calculations of you. When they can never be completely certain where your boundaries lie, they approach with caution rather than confidence. This creates a fascinating psychological blueprint where others begin policing their own behavior around you, often holding themselves to higher standards than you would explicitly demand. They've witnessed your capacity for both tolerance and firmness, never quite knowing which they'll encounter, and that uncertainty breeds respect. Now, I want to go even deeper into this topic by exploring what it means to develop a presence that is felt but never fully grasped, to become the shadow in the corner of the room. This isn't about physical positioning, but about cultivating an aura of quiet significance that others can sense but never completely define. When people can't predict you, they can't control you. This fundamental truth creates a powerful decision point for anyone in your orbit. They must either submit to your influence or foolishly attempt to plot against you. The revelation here is that both outcomes work to your advantage when leveraged correctly. Those who align with you become more loyal precisely because they recognize they cannot manipulate you. Those who oppose you often do so based on incomplete information, leading to miscalculations that ultimately strengthen your position. This creates a natural filtering system where allies become stronger and adversaries become weaker through their own actions. The journey toward irreplaceability reaches new depths when you master appearing as the ever-changing terrain. If others expect you to retreat, advance decisively. If they anticipate kindness, deliver cold precision. If they prepare for confrontation, offer unexpected peace. The transformation happens in that moment of surprise when their mental map of you suddenly proves inadequate. This isn't about being contrarian for its own sake. It's about recognizing the hidden truth that predictable patterns make you vulnerable. When others believe they've mapped your mind, they begin strategizing against that map. By changing the terrain beneath their feet, just as they think they understand it, you force a constant recalibration that keeps you perpetually relevant, perpetually fascinating. Behind the scenes of every powerful relationship is this dance of expectation and surprise. The moment someone thinks they've figured you out completely is the moment their interest begins to wane. By maintaining this delicate balance of familiarity and mystery, you create a presence that others find themselves continually drawn to explore. Write, "I am the shifting terrain" in the comments if you recognize how keeping others guessing has created power in your relationships. Now there's an even more profound dimension to this strategy that explains why some people occupy space in our thoughts long after they've left the room. That profound dimension is the ability to rent space in people's minds without ever having to ask for it. When someone can't fully predict your next move, they naturally spend more time observing you, analyzing your patterns, and replaying your words and actions in their head. This creates a fascinating psychological phenomenon. You occupy prime mental real estate without having to pursue their attention. Think about it. The people you find yourself thinking about most often aren't necessarily those who demand your attention, but those who leave you with questions, with curiosity, with a sense that there's more to discover. This is the hidden revelation behind why some individuals seem to linger in our thoughts long after an interaction has ended. This mental occupation isn't manipulation, it's a natural human response to intrigue. We're hardwired to solve puzzles, to fill in gaps, to make sense of what isn't immediately obvious. By maintaining elements of strategic unpredictability, you activate this innate cognitive process in others, creating a presence that extends far beyond your physical interactions. Now, I want to go even deeper into this topic by exploring an essential truth that many miss. Unpredictability without a foundation of genuine competence is merely recklessness. The journey toward true influence requires building a solid core of discipline, skill, and self-control. Beneath your strategic variability, your power comes from this powerful contrast, the juxtaposition between your undeniable capability and your unpredictable application of it. When others sense both your competence and your capacity to surprise, they encounter a presence that feels simultaneously solid and impossible to fully comprehend. This is the transformation that elevates ordinary influence into magnetic fascination. Behind the scenes of every truly powerful individual is this balance, a foundation of mastery, supporting a dynamic, unpredictable expression of it. Without this foundation, unpredictability reads as instability rather than strategy. With it, even your smallest actions carry significant weight. The final revelation in this path toward irreplaceability is perhaps the most counterintuitive: mastering controlled detachment. Most people operate under the belief that demonstrating attachment to outcomes, to relationships, to positions, signals commitment and value. The hidden truth is that attachment often functions as the very chain that drags people into weakness. The harder you cling to anything, approval, recognition, specific relationships, particular outcomes, the more you signal dependence. And dependence, in the landscape of human dynamics, is blood in the water for opportunists and predators. It broadcasts vulnerability rather than strength, need rather than choice. This doesn't mean becoming cold or uncaring. It means developing the capacity to engage fully while maintaining your center of gravity, to care deeply without surrendering your autonomy, to value connections without becoming defined by them. This subtle mindset shift creates a profound impact on how others perceive and respond to you. When you can genuinely walk away from anything that no longer serves your growth, your purpose, or your well-being, you operate from a position of choice rather than need. That position radiates a quiet confidence that others can sense without you having to announce it. Drop "I choose detachment" in the comments if you've experienced how letting go of neediness has transformed your relationships. Now, let's explore how this controlled detachment manifests in specific situations that most people handle completely wrong. The situations where controlled detachment creates the most power are precisely those where most people surrender it completely. Consider negotiations, whether for salary, business deals, or even relationship boundaries. The crucial revelation is that controlled detachment isn't the absence of care, it's the mastery of choice. It's having the clarity and conviction to sever ties without hesitation when connections no longer serve your advancement, your well-being, or your purpose. What others might perceive as cold, you recognize as clarity. This mindset shift transforms every interaction by removing the emotional desperation that so often undermines your position. Behind the scenes of every powerful negotiation is this fundamental truth: the person willing to walk away holds all the cards, while the person who must make a deal will compromise until they bleed. Now, I want to go even deeper into this topic by examining what creates true leverage in human dynamics. The hidden reality is that the person who can genuinely walk away from any situation holds infinitely more power than the person who must stay. This isn't about pretending not to care. Such performances are transparent and ultimately self-defeating. True controlled detachment emanates from a deep, unshakable knowing that you are in every situation by choice rather than by need. This certainty becomes visible in your posture, straight, unhurried, never leaning forward in desperation. It shows in your eyes, present and engaged, but never pleading. It resonates in your speech, calm, measured, never rushing to fill silence or overcome objection. This journey toward mastering detachment requires a fundamental transformation in how you view relationships of all kinds. Most people operate from a scarcity mindset, believing they must cling to whatever connections they currently have, regardless of quality. The revelation that changes everything is recognizing that abundance exists, that no single relationship, opportunity, or position defines your worth or determines your future. When you embody this truth, you become what can only be described as a priceless artifact in others' lives. In both personal and professional contexts, the fundamental dynamic shifts. If others sense you'll tolerate anything just to maintain the connection, they will inevitably test your boundaries, push your limits, and eventually discard you when something shinier appears. But when they feel deep in their bones that you could vanish without breaking stride, not as a threat or manipulation, but as a simple fact of your sovereignty, they handle you with the reverence reserved for irreplaceable treasures. This creates a fascinating paradox where your willingness to walk away makes others far less likely to give you reasons to do so. The decisions that create this position of power aren't made in dramatic moments, but in the quiet choices of everyday life. Declining an invitation that doesn't genuinely interest you, maintaining silence rather than filling uncomfortable gaps in conversation, setting boundaries without lengthy justifications. These small assertions of autonomy compound over time into a presence that others instinctively respect. Share "I hold the power to walk away" in the comments if you recognize how detachment has created respect in your relationships. Now, there's a crucial element to this approach that explains why some people seem to command resources effortlessly, while others struggle constantly to gather what they need. That element of effortless resource command begins with a seemingly contradictory truth. Detachment must be practiced consistently in small ways before it can be wielded effectively in significant moments. Most people mistakenly believe detachment is a dramatic decision made in pivotal situations. In reality, it's a muscle strengthened through daily discipline and countless micro-decisions that most never notice. Decline invitations you don't genuinely care for, even from people you admire or respect. Don't reply instantly to messages simply because they arrive. Respond when you're truly ready to engage. Keep certain plans, achievements, or insights to yourself, rather than immediately sharing them for external validation. These aren't manipulative games, but deliberate micro-reinforcements of your fundamental autonomy. These small decisions create a powerful ripple effect in your relationships. Others begin to recognize, often unconsciously, that your time and attention are governed by your genuine interest rather than obligation or people-pleasing. This subtle shift transforms how they value interactions with you, making your presence feel like a deliberate choice rather than a guaranteed constant. Now, I want to go even deeper into this topic by revealing one of the most powerful expressions of controlled detachment: the strategic exit at your peak. Most people remain in situations, whether professional positions, social circles, or personal relationships, long past their natural conclusion, driven by comfort, fear, or misplaced loyalty. This creates a gradual devaluation of their presence as others adjust to taking them for granted. The transformation happens when you develop the wisdom to walk away at your peak, before others expect it, before you're devalued, before they've had a chance to become comfortably numb to your contribution. When you exit while your image is still burning bright in their mind, when your last interaction showcased strength and self-sufficiency, you create a powerful psychological imprint that persists long after your physical absence. This strategic timing ensures you're remembered at your most impactful, your most valuable, your most irreplaceable. The contrast between your former presence and current absence becomes stark and undeniable, rather than a gradual fading into irrelevance. This isn't about burning bridges, it's about understanding the natural arc of human connection and choosing to write your own ending. The journey toward true irreplaceability takes another crucial turn when you master the command of resources. The hidden revelation here is that true power isn't measured by a single metric, but by a diverse ecosystem of resources that feed, fortify, and weaponize your influence. Money is merely one form. Information, alliances, influence, skills, reputation, territory, access, and favors owed are equally vital currencies in the economy of power. The person who commands these varied resources controls the battlefield without ever stepping onto it. They shape outcomes through strategic deployment rather than direct confrontation. Behind the scenes of every powerful individual is this invisible architecture of resources, carefully cultivated and precisely leveraged at critical moments. Type, "I command my resources" in the comments if you recognize the power of building multiple forms of capital beyond just financial wealth. Now there's a crucial dimension to resource command that explains why some people's influence seems to extend far beyond their immediate presence. That dimension of extended influence emerges when you begin thinking in terms of total resource ecosystems rather than isolated assets. The most common limitation people face isn't a lack of resources, it's a fragmented approach to them. The untouchable understand that true wealth isn't a single tree, but an entire forest, with each branch feeding and strengthening the others in a continuous cycle of growth. They collect favors like coins, each one carefully stored until the perfect moment for redemption. They guard valuable information like treasure, revealing it only when the strategic advantage outweighs the cost of disclosure. They develop specialized skills like weapons, each one honed for precision impact in specific situations. This diversified approach creates a foundation that can't be easily undermined or dismantled. The revelation that transforms mere accumulation into true power is the recognition that these resources must flow between categories, creating compound effects far greater than their individual value. A well-placed piece of information shared with the right ally creates a new connection. A skill demonstrated at the perfect moment generates future opportunities. A favor called in strategically opens doors that money alone could never unlock. Now I want to go even deeper into this topic by exploring the critical difference between aimless gathering and strategic acquisition. Most people collect resources randomly, reading whatever crosses their path, connecting with whoever seems friendly, developing skills based solely on immediate interest. The mind shift that creates extraordinary leverage is approaching resource acquisition with deliberate purpose. Your learning shouldn't be random consumption. It should be targeted weaponization. A skill isn't just something you can do. It's a blade that cuts through specific obstacles. Knowledge isn't just information you possess. It's a lockpick that opens particular doors. The right introduction isn't just a social connection. It's a bridge over a fortress wall. Every new piece you add should strengthen your overall power architecture rather than simply accumulating without direction. This strategic approach to resource building requires patience, discipline, and most importantly, vision. The ability to see how today's investment creates tomorrow's advantage. Behind the scenes of every seemingly overnight success is this methodical construction of complementary resources, often built over years before being revealed. Which brings us to perhaps the most counterintuitive wisdom in resource management. Never reveal the full scope of what you possess. The Machiavellian truth most miss is that transparency creates vulnerability. If others see your entire wealth, they'll inevitably scheme to diminish it. If they know all your alliances, they'll attempt to corrupt or isolate them. If they understand the full extent of your knowledge or skill, they'll prepare defenses against it. The journey toward irreplaceability requires showing just enough to command respect, never enough to allow others to fully prepare for you. This isn't about deception, it's about strategic revelation. You don't hide your capabilities out of insecurity, but out of wisdom, understanding that partially known strength often creates more advantage than fully displayed power. Type, "I build in shadows" in the comments if you recognize the value of concealing your full capacity. Now, let's explore the most profound aspect of becoming irreplaceable, the art of perception management that makes others believe in your value before you ever have to prove it. The art of perception management represents perhaps the most profound dimension of becoming truly irreplaceable. The revelation that transforms ordinary influence into extraordinary power is this: power isn't merely what you are, it's what others believe you are. This battlefield isn't fought primarily in boardrooms, backrooms, or direct confrontations. It's fought in the minds of those who see you, hear of you, and speak your name when you're absent. If you don't actively control how you're perceived, make no mistake, someone else will do it for you, and they'll do it to serve their interests, not yours. Most people live under the well-intentioned delusion that if they simply work hard and demonstrate value, others will naturally recognize and appreciate it. The hidden truth is that perception rarely forms organically in your favor. It must be deliberately crafted, carefully maintained, and strategically evolved. Your reputation, the collective impression others hold of your character, capabilities, and value, is perhaps your most mobile form of power. It enters rooms before you do, whispers in ears while you sleep, and lingers in conversations long after you've departed. This invisible ambassador either opens doors or slams them shut, without you ever being present to defend yourself. Now, I want to go even deeper into this topic by examining how masterful reputation building resembles architecture more than accident. Most people allow their reputation to grow wild, hoping others will naturally see their better qualities while overlooking their flaws. This passive approach surrenders extraordinary power to chance and the interpretations of others. The transformation begins when you approach reputation building with the precision of an architect designing a fortress, constructing it brick by brick through each interaction, appearance, decision, and detail. Every public action, every visual element, every verbal and non-verbal signal should feed into the specific image you want burned into their minds. This isn't fabrication, it's curation, emphasizing certain genuine aspects of yourself while allowing others to remain in the background. The journey toward irreplaceability requires understanding the delicate balance between consistency and ambiguity. On one hand, consistency in what you reveal builds trust and reinforces specific perceptions. If you're cultivating an image of discipline, never appear disorganized. If you're building a reputation for precision, never be sloppy. A single breach of consistency can undermine years of careful work. Yet consistency alone creates predictability, and predictability eventually kills intrigue. The most magnetic reputations blend reliable patterns with strategic ambiguity, giving people enough to form a compelling image, but never enough to confirm it completely. This space between what's known and unknown about you becomes fertile ground where others' imaginations take root, often creating perceptions even more powerful than reality could provide. This delicate dance of reveal and conceal creates a fascinating psychological dynamic where others remain perpetually interested in discovering more about you. Behind the scenes of every powerful reputation is this careful calibration, sharing enough to build trust while maintaining enough mystery to sustain fascination. Right, I shape their perception. in the comments if you recognize how controlling your image has created power in your relationships. Now let's explore how silence itself can become one of your most powerful tools in the art of perception management. Silence itself becomes one of the most powerful tools in your arsenal of influence when wielded with precision. The revelation that transforms ordinary communication into extraordinary impact is this: sometimes saying nothing builds more power than the most eloquent speech. Most people rush to fill silence, uncomfortable with the void it creates, eager to explain, justify, or clarify their position. This instinctive verbal filling betrays a fundamental insecurity, a need for immediate understanding and approval. The transformation begins when you recognize that silence forces others to interpret your thoughts, inevitably projecting their own fears, hopes, and assumptions onto you. This psychological mechanism works quietly behind the scenes, creating a canvas where others paint their own conclusions, often more powerful than anything you could have explicitly stated. The Machiavellian mind doesn't rush to explain itself. It understands the hidden truth that explanations often invite doubt, while silence invites speculation. And speculation is far more dangerous to your adversaries than facts could ever be. When you allow others to fill in the gaps themselves, they often imagine capabilities, intentions, or knowledge far more formidable than reality. Now, I want to go even deeper into this topic by exploring the critical concept of psychological distance. The journey toward irreplaceability requires understanding a fundamental paradox of human connection. If people can reach you too easily, they will inevitably touch you carelessly. If they can predict your every response with certainty, they will gradually stop valuing your presence altogether. Psychological distance isn't about physical separation or emotional coldness. It's about creating a space between your value and others' access to it. This distance forces them to reach for you, to think about you, to work to access your time, attention, and insight. This deliberate separation creates value through controlled scarcity, making each interaction feel significant rather than routine. Most people make the critical error of excessive availability, mistaking constant presence for importance. They answer every message immediately, attend every gathering, offer help before it's requested. This well-intentioned approach actually diminishes their perceived value over time, teaching others that their time, attention, and presence require no special effort to obtain. The revelation that changes everything is understanding that psychological distance isn't complete absence, but controlled proximity, being close enough to influence, but far enough to remain somewhat untouchable. Too much distance, and you risk being forgotten entirely. Too little, and you become taken for granted. The sweet spot lies precisely where others remain constantly aware of you, but never fully saturated with your presence. This delicate balance creates a fascinating tension where each interaction feels like a meaningful exchange rather than a guaranteed constant. Behind the scenes of every magnetic relationship is this careful calibration, enough connection to create significance, enough separation to maintain desire. Right, I master the space between us. In the comments, if you recognize how psychological distance has created power in your interactions. Now let's explore a dimension of irreplaceability that few understand, but that creates immediate respect when implemented correctly. That dimension that creates immediate respect is the calculated display of power, the rare but precise demonstration of your capabilities that leaves an undeniable impression. The revelation that transforms ordinary influence into legendary impact is understanding that power follows a paradoxical rule. When flaunted constantly, it becomes mere noise. When never shown at all, it becomes a toothless myth. Most people fall into one of these extremes, either constantly flexing their influence, connections, or capabilities until others become desensitized to them, or keeping their power completely hidden until it's indistinguishable from weakness. The transformation occurs when you master the middle path, knowing exactly when to let your strength sleep quietly beneath the surface and when to bring it crashing down like lightning, sudden, blinding, and unforgettable. This isn't about intimidation or dominance. It's about strategic demonstration. The true tactician understands that power revealed at the perfect moment creates an impression that lasts far beyond the display itself. It plants an image in others' minds that shapes their behavior long after the moment has passed. Now, I want to go even deeper into this topic by exploring the psychological impact of strategic revelation. The journey toward becoming. Truly irreplaceable involves allowing others to underestimate you until they've grown comfortable with their perception, then revealing a capability they never calculated for, knowledge they didn't know you possessed, connections they didn't realize you could call upon, resources they didn't suspect you had access to. The shock value isn't just in your action itself, but in the gap between their expectation and the reality you suddenly unleash. This cognitive dissonance forces an immediate recalibration of how they've been measuring you, often resulting in a level of respect that words alone could never achieve. Behind the scenes of every powerful revelation is careful timing, allowing underestimation to reach its peak before demonstrating precisely why it was misplaced. This isn't about ego or proving others wrong. It's about establishing a new baseline of respect that prevents 100 future challenges. The hidden wisdom in power display is understanding that rarity amplifies impact exponentially. A calculated show of capability should be uncommon enough to be genuinely memorable. If you display your full strength weekly, it quickly becomes routine, expected, and ultimately invisible. If you do it perhaps twice yearly, at precise moments of maximum effect, it becomes legend. This deliberate infrequency creates a fascinating psychological effect. Others begin to wonder, if this is what you show occasionally, what might you be capable of when they're not looking? That question alone often prevents them from testing boundaries they might otherwise push. The ultimate destination of this journey is true irreplaceability, the state where you're no longer simply valued, but genuinely needed. The profound revelation is that the end game isn't to be liked, appreciated, or even respected. It's to become so essential that you represent the lock for which they have no other key. This transformation happens when you consistently deliver value that no one else can match. Solving problems others can't solve, providing insights others can't access, creating connections others can't facilitate. You methodically position yourself until removing you would visibly weaken the entire system around you. Drop "I am their essential element" in the comments if you recognize the power of becoming truly irreplaceable. Now, let's explore how these principles combine to create an aura that makes people think twice before ever crossing you. As we reach the end of this journey, through the psychology of irreplaceability, I want you to reflect on a powerful truth. These principles aren't about manipulating others. They're about understanding the natural laws of human perception and value. When implemented with intention, they transform not just how others see you, but how you see yourself. You now possess insights that few will ever discover and fewer still will master. This knowledge represents a choice: to continue operating at the mercy of others' perceptions, or to begin deliberately crafting your own reality. The transformation doesn't happen overnight. It emerges through consistent application, through small daily choices that gradually reshape how the world responds to you. Remember, becoming irreplaceable isn't about being liked by everyone. It's about being valued by the people who truly matter in your journey. If this perspective has shifted something in you today, take a second to hit the like button, not for algorithms, but as acknowledgement of the connection we've built through these ideas. It's a small gesture that helps these concepts reach others who might be ready for the same transformation. I'm curious, which of these principles resonated most deeply with you? Drop "I am the architect of my value" in the comments if you're committed to applying these insights. Your comment creates a community of others walking this same path of deliberate influence. For those ready to take the next step, there's a video right here that explores the hidden psychology of high-value communication, the perfect complement to what we've covered today. Click and continue with me there as we deepen this journey toward becoming truly irreplaceable. Until next time, remember, power isn't given, it's claimed. And the most profound power begins with how you position yourself in the minds of others.